What's up, everyone? Jason Gilbo here, taking a look at tonight's NBA slate, DraftKings and FanDuel, breaking down some value, injury news, and touching on a couple guys I like up top. Big slate tonight, a couple blowout concerns. Golden State, 13.5-point favorites. Washington, 9.5. Memphis, 10-point favorites. In Boston, no Boogie Cousins, but they're only 8.5-point favorites. I think that one's going to stay relatively close up until maybe the end there. Overall, though, a lot of good slates or a lot of good games tonight, and I'll be looking really here, focusing on a couple of games that I'm really going to be targeting heavily. I like Atlanta, Denver, 224 total. Atlanta just 4-point spread. Washington's obviously taking on the Nets, so they're going to be an automatic plug and play for most of those guys for me. The other one, Knicks Clippers, is a good one for me tonight. I got TNT game, 218 total. Clippers defense has been horrible with Chris Paul out. Lakers Pistons, another one, 216. Indiana, Cleveland's a good one too. So a lot of different ways you can go tonight. A lot of places I won't be going. Pelicans, obviously a team that I'm not really intrigued with tonight, going up against the Jazz. Not really looking to use Phoenix tonight either. Also, Milwaukee, Miami is an interesting one because it is a 210 total. Chris Middleton's back. Miami is still waiting on some Dion Waiters news. Other than that, I'm not really that intrigued with that game. Same thing with the Spurs and Sixers as well. So really everything else is in play. Jumping into point guard here first. I mean, if we're starting up top, I obviously like Wall going up against Brooklyn. Hard not to. I don't mind Curry as well. Thomas is probably the one that I'm out on. I like some cheaper options instead. I just think Wall and Curry have a bit of a higher ceiling right now in this game alone tonight. So Thomas, I'm kind of off of at a price for just 100 less than Wall. Other than that, I mean, moving down, you can definitely look at guys, like Dragic if you want, Conley, T are all in play. I'm going to talk about this Denver-Atlanta game as far as the backcourt goes. I mean, I like Dennis Schroeder tonight in a GPP standpoint. Great matchup against the Nuggets. Terrible backcourt defense, up-tempo game. Schroeder's always in play in tournaments for me. Kind of a volatile guy, which is why he's just a tournament play. I'm not really looking to use him in cash games, but I do like the cheap price. This is a guy who does have some 40 fantasy point upside, and if I can get that out of him at that price tag, I'll be sitting pretty good. On the other side, if Emmanuel Mudiay is out, I'll certainly be looking at Jameer Nelson. Atlanta 26 against point guards. Schroeder's not a good defender. I'll look at Nelson, who's going to step in and see 30-plus minutes in that matchup. So certainly don't mind those two guys. I mean, you can look at guys like Darren Collison, cheap on both sides. With Cousins out, a lot of the usage is going to float around elsewhere. I mean, we haven't seen the team without, Gay and Cousins in quite some time. So it's going to be a lot of those secondary guys that pick up a lot of the usage and the pieces. And I expect Collison to be the biggest beneficiary. So I don't mind him. Obviously, great matchup. Isaiah Thomas is not a known defender, so we can certainly look at him. Avery Bradley ruled out. Marcus Smart is certainly in play again for me tonight. Smart's more in play if if Moudier's back, because I do prefer Collison and Nelson ahead of him. Carter Williams is a guy, if Jimmy Butler's out, has seen 31 to 35 minutes, has played particularly well. The floor is still rather low, even coming off 2 good games, so he's obviously GPP only and only in play if if Butler sits. So I'm not really looking at him other than that. So I do worry about the foul trouble there that he always seems to get himself in or close to being in. So obviously just a tournament play. Outside of that, I mean, I'm not particularly thrilled with, D'Angelo Russell tonight. He's been playing well. Ricky Rubio, I have a little bit of interest in a tournament fashion just because I do think he is going to be rather low owned. This is a guy with double-double potential just because of assist numbers. And if you can get those peripheral steals, that's obviously a bonus as well. So keep in mind for tournaments if you're kind of building multiple lineups. If Waiters is out, Tyler Johnson's going to get a bump for me. I don't mind him. He's a guy who does have 30 fantasy point upside. I do prefer the others in cash games, but he's an interesting GPP swerve if Waiters is out. Outside of that, though, I mean, not really looking to use Eric Bledsoe tonight. He's played well. Drew Holiday in a tough spot against Utah. So I'm mainly focusing on those guys. Shooting guard, not a great position tonight. I'm not really intrigued with the pay-up options. Greek Freak up there on FanDuel. Not really looking at him. Chris Middleton's back, going to play about 20 minutes tonight. Haven't really seen a good ceiling out of Giannis in quite some time. It was obviously solid against Phoenix, but before that, I mean, he was kind of just hovering around that 40-point mark. Tonight, I think it's going to be a little bit different. I'm not really looking to pay that price tag for him. DeMar DeRozan, more in play on DraftKings, a little bit cheaper, 8,100. 89 is a little bit too steep for a guy who's mainly just a scoring shooting guard, obviously. If he puts up a game like the Clippers, it's more in play on DraftKings than it is over on FanDuel. So Jimmy Butler's out. I don't think Dwayne Wade is obviously just a lock and load. Do I think there is potential there for a big game? Certainly. But I obviously do think if Butler sits, it's just going to be an absolute blowout. And the fact that Dwayne Wade at his age is not going to go out there and try and run it and keep things going. So at 8K, I'm kind of more looking to fade because I do think he is going to carry some ownership. So more of just a GPP play. Build multiple laps. I don't mind one if it's kind of just in a correlation with some Warriors guys. Bradley Beal, though, I do like, obviously coming off a monster game, 59 points in that overtime loss against Cleveland. This guy has been relatively consistent of late. Did have a down game against New Orleans. The minutes have been rather high for him. I don't mind him. Certainly in play against Brooklyn. Obviously, all 5 of the Washington Stars are in play. I do like Beal a little bit more between him and Wall. Obviously, there's a little bit of a discount. We have seen a good ceiling out of him. Moving down the list here, Devin Booker not really in play. Lou Williams a little too expensive. Thabo Sefolosha is ruled out tonight, meaning Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to be a guy I'll take a look at. Has put up some solid performances. I mean, tough game against Utah, but 33 points against Orlando. Had the big outing, 33 real points against Houston at a minimum price tag of around 5,500 on both sites. I don't mind him at all. And there's a couple guys really in that range. I mean, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, great matchup against the Lakers. Posted a big game, against New Orleans a few games back, and has been really mediocre since then. Certainly a good bounce back spot. I don't mind him in cash, but more of a GPP play, I think, for me. I'd rather kind of pivot to Jamal Crawford in cash games just because he's been a bit more consistent of late. Great matchup against the Knicks. They really do struggle against shooting guards. I think that game is really intriguing. I don't mind JJ Redick as well. It's more of just a swerve off of him, but we haven't really seen a great ceiling out of him of late. He's, about 25 fantasy points is really what he's going to get unless he just runs incredibly hot. Outside of that, though, I mean, no one I'm really looking at below them. I think Crawford and KCP are kind of the cheaper guys that I'll be going with tonight, and Hardaway as well. So more mid-range options than actual punt values. Small forward, obviously you can use LeBron. There were talks about LeBron maybe taking a rest just because he's played some big minutes of late. Obviously, the Washington game, played 42, played 40 against the Knicks. So with that being said, he expects to play tonight. Should be fine. Tomorrow might be the day that he maybe takes a rest day, but we'll look at that then. I don't mind him tonight. I'm more looking to use kind of some cheaper options in that mid-range. I do like Paul George because Cleveland has actually not been good against small forwards this year. Bottom 5 in terms of DVP, giving up a lot of fantasy points. Paul George at home, big game there against Cleveland. I don't mind him. And I also don't mind Carmelo Anthony. I like him a little bit more on DK. His DK price tag, 7,300 compared to 8,000 on FanDuel. So certainly in play, this Clippers defense has really lost their way with Paul out. It's really unraveled. Big total, close spread TNT game. I like Melo a lot. Outside of that, though, I mean, you can pivot down to guys like Otto Porter. Jay Crowder certainly in play. Wilson Chandler, just given the injuries in that situation. Matt Barnes, Marcus Morris, really all in play in that mid-range. I kind of feel that they all jumble up. Should cut into each other's ownerships just a little bit, just because, basically those 4 guys have been really steady of late. And you can also even look down, to guys like, Brandon Ingram if he draws a start in a tournament. I don't mind him, even though it's a tougher matchup. I mean, if he's getting 33 minutes, I certainly don't mind looking at him. A couple guys that I'm not really on, even though they're filling in. Shabazz Muhammad, I think there's better options than tonight's slate for just strictly a score. Jaylen Brown's an interesting guy if the blowout does happen. If we get a case like that Orlando game, I mean, really everything has to go perfectly for him. But this is a guy, 31 FanDuel points at 3,800 against Orlando. Playing pretty good minutes here, 25, 32, 23, 18, 28. 30 over the last 6 games. Obviously, the Bradley injury has helped that. Guy who's drawing the starts right now. So if he can get hot, great matchup against the Kings. I don't mind rolling him out in the GPP. I think he's an intriguing cheap option. So outside of that, I think the mid-range, Melo, don't even mind a Gordon Hayward. Obviously, the price tag's a little bit uneasy. But those guys are kind of more options than me than possibly Durant in a blowout concern. Kawhi blowout. I think LeBron's probably your safest option if you're paying up, but he's obviously more expensive. So not a must play for me tonight. Power forward, I like this position a lot. I like Blake Griffin and Kevin Love. I think those are my favorite go-to options on the slate. I'll be using them quite a bit. Don't mind Paul Millsap as well. LaMarcus Aldridge, intriguing spin-off of him. So those are kind of where I'm going as far as pay-up options. And I think this is a position where I'm not really looking to pay down at tonight. Not a guys that I'm really intrigued with. I don't mind Lavoy Allen. With Thaddeus Young out, but it is a tougher matchup. The floor obviously is rather low. Did put up a good game against Detroit, but struggled against OKC. Trevor Booker is a guy that I'll be looking at tonight. 5,200 on FanDuel, not that bad, around a similar price on DK. This guy's, hovering around about 20, 25 fantasy points, does have potential for 30 plus, double-double in, 2 of the last 3 games here. It's going to push about 12-8, 13-8 on you with maybe a steal or 2. So at that price, I don't mind it. Good correlation, especially because value is pretty weak at this spot. Not really in on Noel, not really in on the Detroit power forwards tonight. Taj Gibson, I'm not really on. So I think for me, I'm more looking to use the value at the small forward position, value at the guard position as well, and even some mid-range centers tonight. So I think power forward's the spot that I'm going to be looking to pay up with. Thaddeus Young, if he's out, obviously Lavoy Allen's in play, but other than that, no real injury news to consider with. Kenneth Faried's a guy who's questionable as well. So, but if that's the case, I still think Wilson Chandler's in play either way. So. A couple guys that I will talk about for GPPs, Markieff Morris, Kristaps Porzingis, both at a similar price tag. Great matchups on paper here. I don't mind them tonight. I think the floor is still a little bit lower. I'm not quite sure if Porzingis is 100% healthy, which is obviously an issue. But I do like the potential there, and I think you're going to get some rather low ownership on him as well. And I do like getting exposure to that game, so I'll be looking his way. Moving over to center tonight, DeMarcus Cousins is out. With the suspension, obviously lucky for the Celtics. This is a game he probably would have dominated. Costa Koufos, really great play on DK where you can roster 2 centers. He's also much cheaper. 17 games without Cousins last season. He averaged 12 and 8, with over 2 blocks plus steals per game in 28 minutes. Boston, not a good team against centers. They're ranked 24, 26 in rebounding, so I'll certainly be looking his way. I do feel like DK, you get the better value of the centers tonight because Rudy Gobert, I like a lot, 6,900, Gortat, 6,300. Both are really in play for me. Pelicans struggle against centers, 20th and ranked 29th in rebounding. Gobert is obviously a superb rebounder, good block shot producer, so I don't mind him. Morrison Gortat in play on both sides for me. Obviously, they're all in play on both sides. Do carry a little bit more value on DK, but I don't mind him here. I think he's a good play tonight. And a good swerve off of Drummond, who comes in as my favorite option just going up against the Lakers team. He had a solid game out, and Drummond's feasted on some really good matchups of late, and this is just another one. So I'll certainly be looking to use him. As far as a pay-up option, I think you can look at Towns. He's probably your safest bet to really produce, especially with Cousins out now. Whiteside in a price tag where, yes, had the big game against Philly, but other than that has been kind of average. But he seems to be kind of getting health back together, so hopefully that can continue. So as far as other value, Hernangomez, not value anymore. The price has really come up because, one, he's been producing above 30 fantasy points in each of the last 4 games. This is a guy who, one, continues to lock down double-double boards, and I don't mind him tonight. Just a little bit higher price tag than I would like in the past, so that's one thing to consider about him. So outside of that, that's pretty much going to wrap things up. You can head on over to dailyfantasycafe.com. Check out our great tools and content. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at DFCafe. Follow injury news and possible updates. And we'll see you guys on Friday.